Hello there, I am Richie Stormtrooper. Welcome to my channel. I hope you can see me there behind this big pile of Stormtrooper parts. In fact, let's set this torso aside for the time being. Welcome to a new video. We are taking a quick break out from our actual build. I'm still here building my full kit of Stormtrooper armour. There's a full tutorial, full playlist of tutorials. If you want to see that, click on the link here. But today we're looking at some common mistakes that you might just be making when you are making your Stormtrooper. The 5 don't do these things. My top 5 don'ts when it comes to assembling Stormtrooper armour. Before we get started, if you find this video interesting or useful, please do like and subscribe. As I have just said, we have a full playlist of tutorials. I will be updating once a week or maybe twice a week. New tutorials at least once a week, twice a week, as if I can stay on schedule. So I would really love to have you on board. Okay then, let's get stuck into these 5 common mistakes that I often see when people build Stormtrooper armour that really do kill that look and make you a lot less authentic, lot less accurate looking at the end of the day. We're going to start off with our arm assembly and the forearms. Look at these forearms straight on. What you will notice is here that these are cut completely flat. Back in the day, before we had access to some of the reference material from the Lucasfilm archives, it was commonplace for people to leave some return edge on there. I'll show you some pictures of exactly what that looked like. But basically it was some extra material here which curved inwards, was left on, gave the parts a very nice idealized three-dimensional look, and it was de rigueur for the time. But since we have been given access to photos of original suits in the Lucasfilm archives and we have taken better screenshots, we have noticed that these, on all of the Stormtrooper costumes in episode 4 and 5 certainly, these were cut off straight. It's a lot more easy to wear, you can get your hand through a lot easier, and it is 100% accurate. So cut that off flat so there is no return edge and you will look a lot more accurate. Do not, whatever you do, leave any return edge at the wrist openings. Our second common mistake then, and we're staying with the arm assembly. You will notice I have my biceps and my forearms on one piece, all connected to one, and no connection to any biceps part. There is of course evidence of a biceps to shoulder bell connection in the movie. You just have to look at Han Solo's suit to see that it was in fact in place on some suits, but I see very little evidence of it on most of the troopers. Either the mechanism is broken or it was never included in the first place, and I personally leave it off all of my suits. I have absolutely no connection whatsoever between the shoulder bell and the biceps. Look at these reference pictures that show troopers exactly the same. But this isn't the focus of the point that I want to make. We are looking at the biceps to forearms connection, and you will notice here we have a black piece of elastic. This is elastic, strong elastic material, 50 millimeters in width, and it connects biceps to the forearms on the inside. This is our left arm, and you can see it's on this side, on the inside. It connects those parts so that there can never be any gap. I see it so often on suits. There is a very firm connection. The biceps are connected to the shoulder bells, but there is no connection between these parts, and the result is a huge gap between these parts, and it just looks completely wrong. You need to get those pieces of elastic in there really snug so that when my arms are straight, these parts are completely flush, or even there is some overlap so that the flared edge of the forearms even covers the bicep slightly. So whatever you do, whether you connect your biceps to your shoulders or not, do not under any circumstances forget this very important connection. Look at these comparison photos and I think you'll agree, one looks like a Stormtrooper and one looks like a poorly assembled fan-made suit. We are going to move on to our torso then, and as you will appreciate, this is a full torso assembly, and this is pretty much, if you were using the original strapping system, this is pretty much how you would have to transport your armour. On the originals there were very many more permanent connections than are actually on this suit, because I have a more modern type of strapping which is a little bit more robust than the original system, but the type of strapping itself isn't the focus of this video. I will do a full tutorial on alternative strapping systems at another time. This is more about where are the points, where are the fastening points, and how does that affect our look. I have now separated off the chest and back from the lower torso parts to demonstrate how things used to be done. Before we had access to some of the references that we now have, it was very common for costume builders to attach to this part, the front and back, a set of braces or suspenders. So like things for holding up your trousers or your pants, which would go over the shoulder, typically elastic, which was connected here at the front and the back, just like the things you wear for your pants or your trousers, a set of braces, or in the US, suspenders. And it made for a comfortable fit. You could adjust it to your height, but it also meant that this part, the upper part, was not connected in any way to the torso, the lower torso. This meant that this was free floating and it could move up and down in relation to the lower parts. What was particularly common is that you would see, especially on shorter troopers, that you would see a back part which overlapped over this kidney plate. Now look at the originals. That never happened. So why did that never happen? Well, it's because there is a connection here. In this case, as I say, this is a more modern strapping system. This is not important in this video. What is important is that there is a connection here which connects the kidney plate to the upper back plate. You can see it in there. It's in 3 positions, which replicates the positions on the original kit, and it also means that whilst it is elastic, it prevents the back, the upper back, from overlapping over the kidney plate. On the front we have a similar connection which was a little bit more offset. You can see in there, this is just in 2 positions. The originals had another 3-point connection, but this works fine. It's slightly offset because you do indeed want some overlap, but apart from a little bit of give thanks to our elastic, it's a rather fixed position. So we have a complete flush butt jointed back connection, and at the front we have a slight overlap, but we don't get this effect. We don't get what we used to see, troopers with the chest plate descending over the ab buttons. We keep it at a permanent distance, a constant distance, like so. And I think you'll agree that is much more fitting with the original than something which overlaps and is free floating. Another side effect of these parts being free floating with the braces suspenders solution is that this would be susceptible also to opening in this direction. So if there's no connection here, this can open and flap, which led a lot of troopers to add an unnecessary piece of elastic here connecting the chest to the back, an unsightly strap which was completely unnecessary and completely visible here under the arms. This way we remain completely accurate from the outside, whether we use a modern strapping system, robust strapping system on the inside, or the original strapping brackets version. It doesn't matter. The fixing points, the fastening points are what matter, and we have a great look. Whatever you do, do not leave your chest and back free floating, and do not use suspenders or braces for your abdomen parts. Moving on then to another common mistake. On shorter troopers, like myself, believe me, I have made this mistake myself. I know what it's like to be assembling a suit of armour and to have the impression that the chest piece is too large. I cut all the parts out, trim all the parts and fit them to my body, and either I have this low down and overlapping, completely spoiling the look because I'm covering my ab buttons, or I have the impression that I'm going to choke myself to death because this part of the chest rides far too high. I know how it feels. Do not, whatever you do, make the mistake that I once made, and what indeed the movie makers made when they came to fitting out Mark Hamill with his suit. Have a look at Mark Hamill's suit. Mark Hamill himself is very short. I believe he's something like 5'6" or maybe 5'7", so even shorter than me with my nearly 5'8". And he was obviously shorter than most of the stormtroopers. We all know the famous line, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Well, he was. So how did they get around the problem of the chest piece being too long? Well, what they did was they cut a big chunk off here. They must have changed the strapping system on the inside, because if you see here the screws, these are the screws on the return edge which are needed to mount the original strapping system. They must have discarded that completely, and they took a chunk right out of here. They lost all that look of 3D chunky armour and made a big compromise. We do not need to do that, believe me. The best solution for shorter troopers is as follows. If you need to take any material off to save your throat, then take it from here. In an emergency, you can even shorten these tabs. In an emergency, you can even shorten the tabs on the chest and back. So this bridge part, and this part in particular, you can maybe even lose a couple of millimeters here and there, but generally you don't need to. If you want to adjust this to a shorter trooper, what you need to do is, when you're fitting, get those to touch, so they're assembled touching, which will raise the whole of the chest anyway. Of course, this brings the neck opening closer to your neck. You can take off quite a lot of material here. The normal cut line on this would have been quite a bit higher, but because this is going to be higher up on my neck, I'll show you here on this part. By making sure these tabs touched over my shoulders, I was raising this part, this whole assembly, and making this line higher. So it was absolutely fine for me just to cut this a little deeper. We'll show this when I come to assembling the body parts of my new build in the tutorials. Don't, whatever you do, make the mistake I made with my first ever build. Take the material from here. Don't be Mark Hamill, unless of course you're going for a Luke Skywalker replica, then by all means cut off the bottom and replicate that look. Otherwise, if you want to look like a normal stormtrooper, leave your return edge on here and take the material from the neck. And our final and fifth common mistake that I'm going to address in this video, this is a more general tip which doesn't regard any particular part or any particular section of the armour, it's just a general approach. Don't, whatever you do, copy other builders. Do not rely on other costume builders for your references. And that goes for me too. You can follow my tutorials, but in every tutorial I'm going to be telling you, call up the original references, call up pictures, visual references of original suits, whether that be screenshots from the original movie or whether it be photos from the archives, any photos of original suits, photos of RS Propmaster's original suit, etc, etc. Where can you find all this visual material? Well, visit the forum First Imperial Stormtrooper Detachment at whitearmour.net. The address is down below. This is the forum for Stormtrooper building, Stormtrooper costumes, which is affiliated with the 501st Legion. You do not need to be a member of the 501st Legion. You do not even need to intend to become a member of the 501st Legion. There are a heap of useful references and a lot of friendly people happy to help you with your build. Sign up there, and there is a whole stack, a whole section of visual references. That's where I get all my references from, and those are the only definitive references which you should be copying. For instance, if I'm building thigh armour and I'm trimming and I'm not sure exactly how much return edge to cut away here, exactly how to position my cover strip, whatever it is, any matter of appearance of your kit and how to build it, by all means take advice from other troopers, from other builders on general tips on how to build and where to find references like I'm telling you now. But when it comes to copying something one for one, like for like, make sure that your references are pictures of original suits, real stormtroopers from the movie, or real suits of armour from the archives. Don't make the mistakes of copying other people's mistakes. Somewhere along the line, I will make a mistake, you will copy it, and it will be reproduced forever and ever, and we'll have a whole series of inaccurate stormtroopers. Make it your goal to make your suit much more accurate than mine. Well, that's all from me for this video. I hope you found it useful or at least interesting. I hope I have helped you avoid making some of the common mistakes that I still see even now, even though we have more up-to-date information. If it was useful for you, please do like and subscribe. Have a look around the channel. Check out the playlist with all the tutorials. I will be back shortly with more. I will be posting regular content at least once a week, maybe twice a week. I look forward to having you on board and seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care.